On behalf of the Mental Health Foundation Australia and our chairperson, Mr. Vasan Srinivasan, I would like to welcome and thank each and every one of you for attending our official launch of National Mental Health Month on World Mental Health Day. We would like to begin today's proceedings by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the numerous lands on which we meet today. We would like to pay our respects to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders, past, present, and emerging, and celebrate their cultural contribution to society. Good morning, everyone. My name is Abby, and I'm an Australian Multicultural Ambassador for MHFA. World Mental Health Day is observed on 10th of October every year, with the overall objective of raising awareness of mental health issues around the world and mobilising efforts in support of mental health. The day provides an opportunity for all stakeholders working on mental health issues to talk about their work and what more needs to be done to make mental health care a reality for people worldwide. The MHFA sees no better day than today to launch our National Mental Health Month campaign for 2020. National Mental Health Month is an initiative by the MHFA to advocate for and raise awareness of Australian mental health. It is an important time where the Australian community comes together to raise awareness that #mental health matters. The MHFA's National Awareness Campaign is unlike many others. It aims to bring all Australians together in a nationwide conversation about mental health, and we aim to maintain this conversation for an entire month and beyond through a series of various mental health related activities. National Mental Health Month is a program that the MHFA is extremely proud of, and we intend to reach out and educate as many Australians as we possibly can to help reduce stigma and facilitate positive and non-judgmental discussions surrounding the important topic of mental health care in Australia. With 1 in 5 Australians experiencing a mental health illness, it is time that we give mental health the attention that it is due. And this is exactly what the MHFA is wanting to achieve. Throughout this month, many events have been organised by each state and territory of Australia, aiming to attract and unite Australians of all ages and backgrounds to raise awareness for the need of better mental health care for all. Please join us in celebrating the Mental Health Foundation Australia 90-year journey by viewing a short video.
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Mental Health Foundation Australia's journey began 90 years ago. It dawned in 1930 with just a founder and vision, which was to reach and impact Victoria. Now we have a presence in all states and changing lives for over 100,000 people throughout Australia. Our organisation's biggest initiative yet is our National Mental Health Month. Our month-long initiative is to advocate and raise awareness on Australian mental health. Our vision is to recharge and educate as many Australians as possible to help reduce stigma and facilitate positive and non-judgmental discussions surrounding the important topic of mental health in Australia. With the theme being Mental Health Matters, the awareness is cumulative. In 30 events we have organised to reach the community in all mental health subject matters affecting our lives today. To further continue our journey of 1,000 miles, the Walk for Mental Health has transitioned from a Victoria-only walk to being a nationwide community walk, where anybody from anywhere in Australia can connect with us, walk with us virtually to spread the impact and awareness of mental health. We pride ourselves with making sure all our programs are for the community and are powered by the community. We have a vast growing network of multicultural ambassadors who are part of our program to further the community voice in promoting positive mental health and wellbeing. Our multicultural network has inspired our educational and multicultural webinars as an initiative to help power Fidelity to cope with success during the pandemic, to promote the understanding of unique cultural and ethnic heritage in Australia, and the development of culturally responsible and responsive curriculum. The the Mental Health Foundation of Australia conducted the multicultural research to continue on the development of the fast-growing multicultural fidelity in Australia. With the effects of COVID-19 pandemic, the MHFA has successfully committed the Power Hour of services and the reach to the community, with the helpline hours extended. We are here to show Australians we can be a shoulder to lean on and can be dialed to assist in all mental health matters. Our impact flows into the COVID-19 meal delivery response with the help of the community, local business and our multicultural ambassadors. It has promoted one vision, which is to serve others before self during this time of uncertainty. With over 45,000 meals delivered, we continue to work with the Department of Health, the Human Services, the Salvation Army and the Australian Multicultural Foundation to continue this success. As we continue to work to deepen understanding.
I would now like to invite Mental Health Foundation Australia's chairperson, Mr. Vasan Srinivasan. Vasan has been affiliated with the MHFA for many years as a volunteer, the vice chair, and now as a chairperson. He is also the first individual of Indian origin to be appointed as a member of the Australian Multicultural Council by the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. Please join me in welcoming him.
Good morning, all. I would like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet today. And I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I would like to welcome and thank everyone who has taken time to join us today. It is a very special event where we launch our National Mental Health Month campaign for 2020. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all our special guests who are here with us today. Honourable Minister Alan Tudge, Ms. Emma McBride MP, Mr. Mark Hutton Squire, and Mr. Jim Rimmer. I thank you for accepting our invitation as we launch our exciting month ahead. I would also like to extend my thank you to our MC, Abhi Srinivasan. Furthermore, I also thank all members of Parliament, mayors, councillors, and mental health organizations who have taken the time to join us today. Let me begin by saying it is my absolute privilege to lead the oldest community-based mental health organization in Australia. This year, the MHA celebrates 90 glorious years of achievement, advocating for mental health, raising awareness of mental health, providing education on mental health, fostering mental health resilience, and providing mental health support to consumers, carers, professionals, and general community. After many years of the Mental Health Foundation Australia hosting Mental Health Week, in 2019, MHFA hosted a very successful National Mental Health Awareness campaign, with more than 12,000 workers having joined us at Albert Park Lake. Due to this success, our goal is to now continue to extend this awareness campaign to all states and territories of Australia. This year has been unlike anything anyone could have imagined, with COVID-19 bringing many norms such as social distancing, work from home, quarantine, and so on. The MHFA has made sure the pandemic situation does not compromise our national mental health awareness campaign. We have organized various virtual and physical events on many different aspects related to mental health. So far, the foundation has successfully run 9 events, including a very well-received virtual national symposium on teachers' mental health, and our first physical event for the mental health, our national symposium on farmers' mental health at Newcastle Town Hall. Our National Mental Health Month calendar has been curated to show that mental health matters, especially during these difficult times. I mentioned specifically our work for mental health. Aside from our physical walks in each state and territory, other than Victoria on the 18th of October, the MHFA created our very own MHFA Walktober app to allow Australians all around the nation to walk for mental health. I encourage you to download the app today and begin taking steps towards better mental health for all. Please also join us either physically or virtually on the 18th of October, 10 a.m. at local time. As Australians all across the country walk with us for mental health. To facilitate the task of running of all these different events, in 2018, the Foundation implemented Australian Multicultural Ambassadors and Australian Youth Ambassadors programs, comprising of dedicated network of volunteers across the country, with the aim to reduce the stigma associated with mental health issues within culturally and linguistically diverse communities and generally within Australian community. With great pride, I say we have network of over 900 ambassadors across the nation. We are thankful to Mr. Has Mustafa and Commonwealth Bank for sponsoring this program, allowing for many multicultural communities to be reached all throughout Australia in our mission to provide better mental health for all. I would like to take special mention of the MHFA COVID-19 meal delivery program. So far, the MHFA has delivered 45,000 cooked meals, and by end of this program, we aim to deliver up to 60,000 meals. This is an extremely successful program and one that is truly special to MHFA. I would like to thank all those involved for their hard work, particularly MHFA ambassadors, Mr. Stephen Yin, Mr. Karan Gandok, and Mr. Sunny Dougal and Shanti Whiteside, Mr. Bruce Wong of Food Solutions, and Mr. Param Jaswal of Imperial College, Ananda Bhavan and Saravana Bhavan vegetarian restaurants in Melbourne. A very special thank you to all volunteers and kind donors who have made this initiative possible. I would like to thank our patrons, Board of Directors, Scientific Advisory Committee members, multicultural ambassadors, youth ambassadors, volunteers, and well-wishers of the Foundation for their contribution towards organizing all the events within this year National Mental Health Awareness Campaign. I would like to especially thank Mr. Jim Gooden, the MHFA Vice Chairman, and Ms. Aisha Usman, Manager at the MHFA, for your continuous support and hard work. May I also mention Jim and Helga are touring around Australia in a caravan for the past few months to promote our National Mental Health Awareness Campaign. He is currently in Brisbane overseeing our Queensland events. Isn't right, Mr. Jim? Last but not least, I'm sure all our board directors will agree with me. A huge round of applause to all our staff members, Akshay, Andali, Aneka, Daryl, Harish, Jack, Jill, Kelly, Nitya, Pantelis, Preeti, and Tyrone for making this month possible. I also thank our major sponsor for the month, Australian Unity, for their continuous support. Let me conclude by saying, Honourable Minister Tudge, I ask that the Morrison government open their eyes to the MHFA and our activities. You will not be disappointed investing in us, Minister Tudge. I once again thank you all for joining us today. With your support, we can achieve many great things regarding the reduction of mental health and the stigma that shadows them. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Vasan. I would now like to invite Mr. Jim Gooden, Vice Chairperson of the MHFA, to introduce one of our special guests for today.
Thank you, Abby, and thank you, Vasan, for your excellent leadership and extraordinary hard work. I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to elders past and present, as well as emerging future leaders. And I recognise the countless millennia this land was occupied but never ceded by our Indigenous inhabitants. Welcome to all. As Abby said, my name is Jim Gooden and I am Vice Chairperson of the Mental Health Foundation Australia. And I've been given the privilege of welcoming our guest of honour and a great supporter of the Mental Health Foundation, the Honourable Alan Tudge MP. The Honourable Alan Tudge is the Federal Minister for Aston and Minister for Population, Cities and Urban Infrastructure, and Acting Minister for Immigration, Citizenship, Migrant Services and Multicultural Affairs. Minister Tudge was first elected in 2010. He has been involved with multiple community organisations, including being one of the co-founders of Teach for Australia, a national non-profit which targets top graduates and from non-teacher facilities and fast-tracks them into teaching into disadvantaged schools. He holds a law degree and arts degree from the University of Melbourne and an MBA from Harvard University. Minister Tudge has been a great support to the Mental Health Foundation Australia for the last 3 years. We regard him enormously for his commitment to mental health and hold him in very, very high regard. Please join me in making welcome Minister Tudge, who I will now ask to officially launch our National Mental Health Month 2020. Thank you, Minister.
Well, thanks so much, Jim, for that very kind introduction. And I'm a bit jealous of you being up in Brisbane, I've got to say. As with Vasan, I'm in lockdown Melbourne, so we're allowed to, escape our house for a couple of hours each day, and otherwise we're within our 5-kilometre radius and firmly in our homes. So, plus you have the sunshine up there. But anyway, thank you so much for that introduction and your contribution. Vasan, thank you so much for the opportunity to launch this event today and launch the Mental Health Month. And can I, just at the outset, congratulate you on your leadership of this foundation, as well as your leadership generally in Australia. I was the one that made the recommendation to Cabinet to put you on the Australian Multicultural Council, and I certainly have not regretted that for a moment. And I can inform all the listeners here as well that Vasan not only is a terrific leader of the Australian Multicultural Foundation, but in his role as a member of the Australian Multicultural Council, the peak Multicultural Council in Australia, is constantly talking up mental health in multicultural communities and really extending his role from the foundation into that council role as well, and making sure that it stays firmly on the agenda. So thank you, Vasan, for your leadership, along with the rest of the committee as well. And I commend you for all of the work that you have done to date, and particularly this year during this very difficult time during COVID, and particularly here in Melbourne, where the additional lockdown has put enormous strain on communities, on families, on individuals, and you have stepped up and to support those. And those figures you just mentioned are staggering in terms of 45,000 meals being distributed, and that requires an army of support to be able to do that, which I know the committee has assembled, and some very strong supporters as well to be able to support that, and sponsors, and you've mentioned a few, and I know that Param Jaswal, for example, has been very generous in enabling you to utilise his kitchens at Imperial College for the support of Australian Unity. and other fantastic supporters as well to facilitate that. So thank you as well. Just in launching the World Mental Health Month, I just point out that we've come a long way, I think, in mental health, but we still have a journey to go. We've come a long way because at least these days we can talk pretty openly about it, and we can have events like this, and there is very strong awareness of the fact that people have episodes of mental ill health, and it occurs in pretty much every single family at some stage in our lives. But we still have a journey to go as well. We've got a journey to go in continuing to raise that awareness, continuing to reduce some of the stigma associated with it. And these months like this certainly facilitate that. And we've got to reach all walks of life in Australia. No matter whether you've born and raised here or newly arrived here or man or woman or whatever. And because mental ill health can affect us all. And again, the Australian Mental Health Foundation really does do that in terms of trying to reach all walks of life, and particularly into the multicultural communities as well. I would say from the government's perspective, mental health has been a tremendous priority of this government since it first came to office, and particularly the Morrison government. It's now up to $5.3 billion of investment this year in mental health. And this year, since the beginning of the pandemic, we've put in a further $500 million into additional activities to support people's mental health. And I particularly point out that now people can access up to 20 free counselling sessions paid for by Medicare, whereas previously it was only 10. Very important initiative. We've also provided additional funding to open new headspace centres, open new clinics, and additional funding for Lifeline and Beyond Blue and other initiatives which have been really under stress. And again, I particularly mention here in Victoria, where I think the stresses have been absolutely enormous. And I know that there's some figures out just recently showing that the suicide rate for young people had indeed increased this year, which is obviously devastating. So we have work to do collectively. Government can do its bit, but the community has to get behind this, and as you are doing through your organisation, which you lead, Vasan, and which other organisations do equally. So I'm very proud to be a supporter, a great supporter of the Mental Health Foundation, and very proud, and I'll continue to do this work of advocating for more support and for mental health generally, and advocating for the stigma to be reduced in relation to mental health, so we can keep talking about it openly, keep supporting one another, keep reaching out, and hopefully helping one another in the process. So with that, I officially launched the month, and I now, I think, if I'm correct, pass over to immediately go into the awards. And I just better make sure that I'm doing the right thing here to immediately go into the 5 award winners. And I'm sure I'll be interrupted if I'm doing the wrong thing. But we have today 5 very special awards for National Mental Health Month. And I would like to go through the 5 in order, and I'm going to read out the person's name and a bit about each of these individuals, and I'll do all 5, and then I think we're going to hear from each of those 5 people briefly as well. So the first award is the Mental Health Advocate of the Year, and it goes to Matthew Jackman. And Matthew, I'm told, is an international mental health advocate, educator and researcher, highlighting alternatives to psychiatry, social and structural determinants, and lived experience leadership He represents the Western Pacific region on the Global Mental Health Peer Network and is a global shaper with the World Economic Forum in Melbourne, Australia. He's on the National Advisory Panel for the Australian Association of Social Workers as a lived experience representative and an ambassador for Generation Mental Health. And he also provides consultation at the World Health Organization. Matthew believes in attending to equity and social justice in alleviating distress and suffering across the world. So congratulations, Matthew, on that very special award of being the Mental Health Advocate of the Year. Well done to you. The next one is the Mental Health Organisation of the Year, and that goes to Emerging Minds, and the director representing Emerging Minds today is Brad Morgan. And Brad is the director of Emerging Minds. He's responsible for bringing together family members, professionals, researchers and organisations to lead national systems change initiatives to strengthen awareness and support for infant and child and family mental health. So congratulations to you, Brad, and Emerging Minds. The third award is the Mental Health Volunteer of the Year Award, which is a very special award, and it goes to Tasman Jowett. Well done to you. And she's the president of Asperger's Victoria and is passionate about driving change within the neurodivergent community to improve social and employment inclusion. Tasman has volunteered with Asperger's Victoria for 11 years and has been president for 5 years, transforming this not-for-profit towards an empowering and sustainable culture through volunteers and lived experience. Tasman was a lawyer, worked with BP internationally, and now focused on not-for-profit evolution and empowerment coaching. Sounds like a very worthy award winner. Well done to you, Tasman. And I'll now go to the Mental Health Youth of the Year. And that goes to Mr. Wathnak Vai. And as a graduate from the top 1% ranking university worldwide, Wathnak completed his triple degrees in Bachelor of Commerce in Management, Bachelor of Social Sciences, and Bachelor of International Development. And Wathnak is a proud advocate and a person with lived experience of borderline personality disorder. Wathnak is also a counsellor and case manager at Relationships Australia, South Australia. Wathnak is passionate about holistic counselling with a focus toward Asian communities. He's committed to helping his clients achieve their goals and improving their well-being. So congratulations to you also, Wathnak, for your tremendous contribution as well. Finally, we have the Mental Health Senior of the Year, and it goes to Mr. Chris Reedy. And for the past 12 years, Chris has been employed by the Department of Health and Human Services Victoria to implement funding programs for a range of community-based organisations run for or by or for older Australians to produce the annual month-long Victorian Seniors Festival. And in these two roles, he has been able to learn from and then provide support to and advocate for individuals and organisations advancing discussions and action around mental health and well-being. So congratulations to you as well, Chris Reedy, and certainly an indicator that mental health continues through all ages. And so congratulations to you, Chris, and to all of the 5 award winners, some very worthy award winners. We're very proud of what you do to advocate for mental health, to contribute to it, and for all of the work that you lead along with many other people. Congratulations to you.
Thank you, Minister Tudge, for your support towards this year's National Mental Health Month Awareness Campaign. It is greatly appreciated. As a thank you, a small token of our appreciation will be posted out to you.
Thank you.
I would also like to take a moment to thank Mr. Jim Gooden, the Vice Chair, for his words as well. I would now like to invite each award recipient to say a few words on their achievement. Firstly, Mr. Matthew Jackman, Mental Health Advocate of the Year.
Great, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'd also firstly like to acknowledge and pay my respect to the traditional owners and custodians of the land, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded and it always was and always will be Aboriginal land. I'm truly humbled and privileged to have been nominated for this award. I'd really like to firstly thank my mother, who's driven me through a lot of complex grief and trauma surrounding her loss to mental health in the work that I do every day. And she definitely deserves to be heard, witnessed and honoured today. I'd like to thank my nominee and my best friend, my best personal and professional support, Sam, for the continued support he provides to me. Behind every loud voice is an engine room, and Sam, you are that engine. And thank you to all of those friends and family that have helped me along the personal and professional path in mental health and believed in me and championed and coached me. You know who you are. And thank you to the Mental Health Foundation of Australia for awarding me with this honour as well. I just wanted to say a few words on how I've got here and some key messages, I guess. I guess I'm here because I'm an advocate, so I'm going to exercise that advocacy voice. So I guess being an advocate's been a part of who I am, and mental health has been a large part of my identity and my family and community, living through a lot of trauma, violence, being a young carer, a service user of public mental health and the current NDIS system. I've had lots of experiences of homophobia, classism, saneism, ableism, which have really provided me with the lived experience that informs a lot of my intersections of understanding inequality, injustice, and what leads to discrimination in the field. I've always fueled my strong sense of injustice, I think, through a lot of my own childhood trauma, growing up advocating for my siblings or advocating to be in my father's care after losing my mother at a younger age. However, through some of those experiences of disadvantage and oppression, I've had a lot of privilege and have been able to use my whiteness, my education and gender in being afforded with being heard and not silenced, and using that to be a voice for those that aren't silenced, or using that to bring other people in the door. And some of the things I've been able to advocate for really are around mental health being a social justice issue, poverty being medicalised as illness and needing to move away from that. The pharmaceutical industry really monetising mental health for self-interest. Speaking out against individual responses, and by those I mean beds and meds or medication for societal collective issues of racism, sexism and homophobia. You can't treat that with a pill. I think our answers to mental health lie in decolonising the impact of Western medicine and working with communities to understand their local social, cultural and spiritual understandings and solutions to working and partnering with people in distress or who experience different expressions of neurodiversity. I think also to raise awareness of power and how the way our economic and political democracies and ideologies can also cause a lot of our disconnection, distress and vulnerability in Australia and globally. This is not an illness of the individual. This is not medical. This is an illness of society through inequality and is deeply political. Mental health is still, though, dominated by a biomedical individual model, which does seek to problematise and pathologise a lot of our distress as deficits and problems, where our trauma histories for many of us aren't attended to in the system. And often there's very little funding allocated to supports in the community, such as talk therapy, peer support, supported employment and education, housing and day-to-day living. And I think Minister Tudge mentioned that we are moving forward in redressing some of those measures, at least through Medicare and talk therapy. As I've mentioned, just in wrapping up, mental health is really deeply political and located in political economies that seek to focus on the individual, building capital and moving away from our own earth, our own ecosystem and what is meaningful to humanity. However, therein lies the solutions to how we move forward, I think, which requires a radical rethink of our own global and local ecosystems. We need this change through lived experience leadership and the discipline of peer work. And I invite you all to think about a balanced society that restores humanity over the economy, connection over capital, and community over self-interest. Thanks again, and let's celebrate the diversity of our humanity for World Mental Health Day and for more fairer and more just societies which are inclusive. So thank you again.
Thank you, Matthew. I would now like to invite Brad Morgan from Emerging Minds, Mental Health Organisation of the Year.
Hi everyone, and thank you. And as per 2020, my computer disconnected just as that happened. I'd just like to thank the Mental Health Foundation for this award, but also on their efforts to raise national awareness of mental health in our community, and also to congratulate the other award winners. I'd also like just to echo Minister Tudge's comments as well around the importance of raising national awareness of mental health and the enormity of the task and the challenge that that has posed and the effort that that has required over many years. But also to say there is a lot more to be done. And I think one of the areas that we're fortunate to be able to see really starting to progress and change is raising awareness of the mental health needs of the youngest members of our community, and particular infants and children and their families. And I think we've been in a really good position, I think nationally, to see that sort of work starting to really progress and seeing much more support starting to be, well, I guess, an awareness of the needs of the support needs of families and young children as we're moving, particularly this year, and the challenges that all families have been facing this year. And I think for us as an organisation, I just wanted to acknowledge and thank the collective effort of many individuals, many families, many researchers and professionals and organisations that are working with us to really drive a national awareness of the needs of this population group. I think our team, I know internally, is extremely passionate about this work, and the energy that they brought to raising national awareness of infant and child mental health has been really important. And I think a big part of our work has really been engaging with the everyday lived experience of families and children and young people and the professionals that work with them, and really working with us to identify what opportunities we do have to better respond, to understand, to connect, and to really look at those opportunities of supporting families really during really difficult times, but also the opportunities of how do we support children and families to develop and support good mental health across the lifespan, because we know that that period in life is really important for, obviously, lifelong mental health and development, and all the opportunities that we hope families can and young people can have access to. So I'd just like to thank everyone, and I might hand over to the next award recipient. Thank you.
I now invite Tamsin Jowett, Mental Health Volunteer of the Year, to say a few words.
Thank you very much for that. I'm very excited to be here today and to be part of this. I'd also like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting, past, present and emerging, as well as recognise those impacted by COVID across the world and the many who may be struggling across our communities today. Thank you for your kind introduction, Minister Tudge. And thank you, Vasant, Jim, and the board, and all the work of the Mental Health Foundation of Australia. Thank you very much for this award. I really appreciate this recognition, and I feel very humbled to receive this today. I'd also like to say Thank you to all the organisers at Powerhouse that are behind today and this whole Mental Health Month. It is a wonderful initiative. And I would also like to say hearty congratulations to all the other fellow award winners who have done some amazing things. I'm really excited hearing about what they've done. I received this award on behalf of our Asperger's Victoria team. We have more than 70 wonderful, dedicated, lived experience volunteers who contribute many hours to empower our Asperger's community. Behind that, we also have a very small but dynamic staff who also are in there making sure that the lives are empowered, inspired, and move forward. Our neurodiverse community has been supported by Asperger's Victoria for over 29 years, almost entirely by volunteer work. I see firsthand at Asperger's Victoria how our strengths-based, positive view of neurodifferences builds self-determination. It also builds resilience and far improved well-being. Our Asperger's autistics are often misunderstood, isolated, and disempowered. So instead of pathologizing, we recommend using a strengths-based lens of difference. Thank you to Minister Tudge and the Mental Health Foundation for all your work supporting positive mental health to build well-being, especially during these COVID challenging times. I must recommend being a volunteer. It delivers so many well-being benefits to me as an individual. Also, I see it across our volunteer team. It gives the community real meaning and our organisation a real impact that a lot of not-for-profits miss out on. So I really encourage you to volunteer this year if you have time to give back, especially to our COVID affected. Thank you. I think I would not be able to do this volunteering without my wonderful husband, Richard, and my family, who provide the support to enable me to do this contribution. Also, I have to thank our lived experience team at Asperger's Victoria, Carla, Sophia, Paige, Jenny, and all of our volunteers. And I have to say that's 29 years of other volunteers. So there's many out there who are not in our ranks at the moment that have contributed. Thank you and again, and congratulations to all my fellow award winners. Keep up your amazing work. And I think we should all enjoy the rest of this Mental Health Awareness Month. Make the most of all these amazing activities that the Foundation is organising, and keep your focus on strengths-based wellbeing. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamsin. I now invite Watnak V, Mental Health Youth of the Year, to say a few words.
Thank you, the Honourable Tudge MP for the lovely introduction, and the Mental Health Foundation of Australia for the award. I'm humble and honoured to receive the award and the title of 2020 Mental Health Youth of the Year on the land of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide region in the state of South Australia. Being a counsellor and a case manager at ASPIS, a service provided by the Leadership Australia, South Australia, under the leadership of my practice manager, Inam Oldie, I must thank her for the support throughout this time and the funding from the Liberal government in South Australian government here. This award not just belong to me, but I believe it's belong to the whole team at ASPIS at Relationship Australia, South Australia. A newly services created by ASPIS, the team in ASPIS, a mental health services, a virtual mental health services, helping core community who has been impacted by COVID-19 here in the state of South Australia. And I believe the first ever services in South Australia and the first ever services across Australia. Of course, COVID-19 has created a lot of stress and scare during the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic here. But as a young person myself, thanks for all the supports, and I'm delighted with the new directions and funding from the federal government, our Morrison government. I believe the title comes with a responsible. And as a person with lived experience myself, I continue to live with a diagnosis, but I use this diagnosis as a way for myself to advocate and to continue raising awareness for mental health across Australia. We came a long way, but we never stopped this journey here. We will and we continue to raise awareness about mental health and advocate about mental health, educate ourselves about mental health, and keep promoting mental health and well-being in our community under the directions of Mental Health Foundation of Australia. Thank you, Jink, my partner, for all the support, and thank you to all award winners this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Wathnik. I now invite Chris Reedy, Mental Health Senior of the Year, to say a few words.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you to Mental Health Foundation Australia. My congratulations to all the other award recipients. It's great work you're doing. Greetings from Jan Juk in Wurrung country. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I appreciate receiving the award. I admire and respect the work done by the Foundation and a host of other community-based support and advocacy groups on mental health. Personally, now I can talk to my children about mental health. I can talk to a friend about mental health. I can talk to someone I bump into at a cafe about mental health. This wouldn't be the case if those community-based organisations hadn't led the way in creating awareness and establishing the environment where we now understand the importance of doing so. In recent years, my role in this has been simple but very satisfying. I've been fortunate to be able to work with many cultural and advocacy groups. I've learned from them, and in turn, I've been able to provide support and offer opportunities to them. Addressing social and cultural isolation has been one of the great outcomes. There's more to be done, but real changes in the approach to addressing the provision of mental health services and in recognising what's required to implement positive changes has occurred. I congratulate the Mental Health Foundation Australia on the month-long program you've put together this year and for the very practical work you do. Thank you very much.
Chris, I would like to thank all our recipients for joining us and for all the wonderful work that you do that's led your community to give you these awards. Congratulations on this fantastic achievement. I also would now like to invite back Mr. Jim Gooden, Vice Chair of the MHFA, to say a few more words.
Thank you, Abby. I would just like to add to what you said. These awards celebrate the achievements and contributions of our winners and the organisations that they represent that are working tirelessly to stamp out stigma and raise awareness of mental health. To all of you, you're dedicated people and you set a benchmark and shed light on innovation and best practices for service delivery. You challenge us to improve and empower the wider Australian community's commitment to mental health. All of you inspire us and challenge us to make our contribution, our own contribution towards a community with better mental health for all, which just by the way happens to be the Foundation's guiding principle. I would also like to thank our Scientific Advisory Committee members for their deliberations and the judgments they made in selecting you in this highly competitive process. Thank you to all our 5 winners for your excellent work. I hope it continues into the future, I'm sure it will, and for sharing your thoughts today.
Thank you once again to Minister Alan Tudge and Jim Gooden. I would now like to invite Ms. Emma McBride, Shadow Assistant Minister for Mental Health and Shadow Assistant Minister for Careers, representing the Federal Opposition Leader, the Honourable Anthony Albanese, to say a few words. Emma was formerly the Chief Pharmacist at Wyong Hospital and Deputy Director of Pharmacy for the Central Coast Local Health District. She was also a specialist mental health pharmacist before being elected into Parliament. She continues to be a powerful advocate for public health and improvements to local schools. Please join me in welcoming Emma McBride.
Good morning. To Mr. Vassan Srinivasan, Chair of the Mental Health Foundation. Good morning. To Mr. Vassan Srinivasan, Chair of the Mental Health Foundation Australia, Minister for Population, Cities and Urban Renewal, Alan. Good morning. To Mr. Vassan Srinivasan, Chair of the Mental Health Foundation Australia, Minister for Population, Cities and Urban Renewal, Alan Touch, and everyone joining across Australia today. It's my great pleasure to join you on behalf of Labor leader Anthony Albanese for the launch of the Mental Health Foundation Australia National Mental Health Month. I would like to congratulate all of the nominees on being recognised today, and in particular to the winners. It's people like you and groups like the Mental Health Foundation that have helped us through this global pandemic. Before I joined Parliament, I was a specialist mental health pharmacist working in adult acute inpatient units at the local hospital in my electorate. It's where I saw firsthand the impact of mental health crisis and the help and support offered by communities and organisations like yours. So I'd like to congratulate the Mental Health Foundation Australia on their initiative in launching One Point, Australia's first mental health daily e-newsletter, helping to encourage positive conversations about mental health and wellbeing. To launch an online magazine in the middle of a global pandemic is a real credit to you and your dedication to improving mental health and wellbeing across Australia. Today, we're together to mark World Mental Health Day, and this year's theme is Move for Mental Health, Let's Invest. As the Director General of the WHO said, World Mental Health Day is an opportunity for the world to come together and begin redressing the historic neglect of mental health. He goes on to say, we are already seeing the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic on people's mental health and well-being, and this is just the beginning. Unless we make serious commitments to scale up investment in mental health right now, the health, social and economic consequences will be far-reaching. Locally in Australia, we welcome the government's commitment in this week's budget to expand telehealth services across Australia from 10 to 20 sessions. And we also welcome more broadly the measures introduced by the government in the face of the global pandemic for mental health and wellbeing. We are also hopeful to see the release of the Mental Health Productivity Commission report and the government's response as a matter of urgency. The impact of COVID-19 on mental health and wellbeing cannot be understated in our community. Australians have been accessing mental health services more than ever before. And as an organisation that can trace its origins back to 1930, the Mental Health Foundation Australia has helped expand Australia's understanding of mental health. And like other organisations, yours has helped to respond to the surge in demand that we've seen for services in this year. To the nominees, award winners and the Mental Health Foundation Australia, on behalf of the Australian Labor Party and leader Anthony Albanese, thank you for your work and dedication.
Thank you, Emma, for providing us with this address and supporting our campaign. We will now have a performance by Ashley Lucy Janet. Ashley recently provided us with the performance for our virtual Australian Multicultural Festival, and she's back to perform for all of you today.
You can never know what it's like. Your blood like winter freezes just like ice. And there's a cold, lonely light that shines from you. You wind up like the wreck you hide behind that mask you use. Don't you know I'm still standing better than I ever did? I'm looking like a true survivor, feeling like a little kid. I'm still standing after all this time, picking up the pieces of my life without you on my mind. I'm still standing, Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm still standing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm still standing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm still standing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't you know I'm still standing better than I ever did? I'm looking like a true survivor, feeling like a little kid. I'm still standing after all this time, picking up the pieces of my life without you on my mind. I'm still standing, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm still standing, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm still standing, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm still standing, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm still standing, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm still standing, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Ashley, for that great performance. I would now like to welcome Mr. Mike Hutton Esquire, Executive General Manager for Mental Health Services at Australian Unity. Mike joined Australian Unity in 2009 and became the Executive General Manager of Health Services in 2018. Mike's prior experience has been as a senior leader in both the UK and Australia across multiple industries, including legal, finance, public relations, technology, insurance, aged care, pharmaceuticals, and healthcare. In 2015, Australian Unity established its mental health service to treat anxiety and depression for people having experienced a recent hospitalisation. Now, nearly 60% of participants have recovered from their symptoms after having completed the program. Mike and his team are committed to evidence-based interventions that are proven to work and support people leading their best lives. Please welcome Mike Hutton Squire of Australian Unity, National Mental Health Month's major sponsor for 2020.
Thank you, everybody, and good morning. I too would also like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the various lands on which we're meeting, and I pay my respects to their elders, past and present. But I also did want to offer my condolences to those who have lost family since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Certainly my thoughts and support go out to all those families. I'd also like to acknowledge the work of the Mental Health Foundation Australia and their great work in the mental health space. Congratulations in particular on your 90th anniversary. That is a tremendous achievement and a sustained commitment to mental health causes in Australia. This is Australian Unity's second year of involvement with the foundation, and we really look forward each year to tackling some of the most challenging social issues together. Mental Health Month is held in October each year, and this gives us that opportunity to raise awareness about mental health and well-being. It is a chance to promote activities and ideas that can have a positive impact on our daily lives and the lives of others. As you know, today marks World Mental Health Day. It occurs in a week where, as Minister Tudge said, the budget announcements once again have substantially increased the investment in a broad range of mental health services. Particularly this year, much has been said of the need for increased investment, but also of increased reform of the mental health sector. And so, like many of us, I eagerly look forward to the release of the Productivity Commission's final report into how services can be optimized. Because it would seem that at the current rate of spend, utilization, and unmet need, that we find ourselves in a fundamentally unsustainable position. So whilst more money for services is commendable, it doesn't necessarily increase the supply of mental health professionals as it takes at least 6 years to fully train a psychologist, and a psychiatrist much longer. As much as we have a surge in mental health needs, we also have a severe shortage of workforce to meet these needs that funding alone will not solve. There is also more work we need to do to close the gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians and improve mental health and well-being of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Australians. Aboriginal people experience a suicide rate that is double the non-Indigenous rate. And so, as a nation, we need to improve our efforts to address these inequalities and not just close the gap, but exceed the gap. In terms of this year, the outbreak of COVID-19 is widely known to likely to have very long-term and profound impacts on Australians' health and well-being. According to the RACGP, antidepressant prescriptions have increased 30% year on year this year. And that's a substantial indicator of the challenge that we face. Despite the severe economic impact felt by the pandemic, it is perhaps the mental health impact that will be felt much greater and for much longer. And so diverse community needs, Indigenous needs, and now pandemic challenges, these are the mental health issues that the Foundation and Australian Unity are facing into. And for a long time, Australian Unity has recognised the importance of high quality mental health support services. And in 2015, after we conducted a global search, we adopted the UK's National Health Service model of low intensity behavioural therapy, called the Improving Access to Psychological Therapies model. We worked with Flinders University to contextualise this to the Australian market and adapted it for clients that had recently been discharged from hospital. So the program is directly addressing the challenges with increased healthcare utilisation by enabling people to recover in their home and stay recovered. Results from our mental health intervention, which is called MindStep, have shown encouraging results and have been published in a peer-reviewed journal as evidence that nearly 6 out of 10 participants recover from their mental health condition. The MindStep program's evidence of success is important in the Australian healthcare context to provide linkage between primary care and acute care. A national model of stepped care between the various settings is needed to ensure Australians don't bounce in and out of the healthcare system, but develop skills for self-management of their mental health that can last their lifetime. The program can train qualified mental health coaches in 12 weeks and have them operating at a full caseload within 6 months. This ensures we're able to rapidly scale the mental health workforce and ensure more people can access care quickly. Furthermore, lived experience and evidence-based interventions are crucial in ensuring that public and private healthcare dollars are most appropriately utilised. Australian Unity is also demonstrating its ongoing commitment to the mental health and well-being of Aboriginal Australians and communities through its recent investment in the development of a new program called Healing Minds. Healing Minds is an initiative that is jointly developed by Australian Unity's Indigenous Services business and Remedy Healthcare business, and leverages our existing experience in mental health services and Aboriginal care. We established the Indigenous Services business in 2018 to provide culturally appropriate care and to develop improved services for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. The Healing Minds program commenced in July 2020 and will be rigorously analysed to determine the improvements it is delivering for Indigenous people. And then we also plan to adapt the program for culturally and linguistically diverse communities and to respond to the growing needs for mental health support that is proven to work. So in closing, Mental Health Month is an important opportunity to raise awareness about the impacts of mental ill health and the range of supports available that can improve someone's sense of well-being. I'm committed to ensuring that we develop and continue to innovate new ways for people to access and receive mental health treatments and to work to alleviate their symptoms. This is especially true for culturally and linguistically diverse communities and Indigenous communities who we know are at higher risk from mental health concerns. We must maintain a focus on adopting services and programs that are grounded in evidence and have long-lasting, meaningful impact to people's mental health. We commit to work with the Foundation to identify service gaps and develop culturally appropriate mental health services for these communities. This is an important and exciting partnership that can add value to what we do as individual organizations, and I thank the Foundation for their unwavering commitment to improving better mental health for all Australians. My thanks to you all.
Thank you, Mike, for joining us today. We really appreciate Australian Unity's support towards our National Mental Health Month for 2020. As a thank you gesture, a small token of appreciation will be posted to you. I would now like to welcome our keynote speaker, Professor Bruce Tong, patron of the Mental Health Foundation Australia. Bruce was head of the School of Psychology and Psychiatry and head of the discipline of psychological medicine at Monash University. He is also the senior clinical advisor of the mental health program of Monash Health at Monash Medical Centre in Melbourne, Australia. He established the internationally recognised Monash University Centre for Developmental Psychiatry and Psychology. He continues to have clinical, research, and teaching interests in the area of developmental psychiatry, with a particular focus in the areas of autism spectrum disorders and behavioural and emotional disturbance in children and adolescents with intellectual disability and neurodevelopmental disorders, parent education, skills training in public mental health interventions, and treatment outcome studies in childhood anxiety and depressive disorders. Please join me in welcoming Emeritus Professor Bruce Tong.
Greetings, everyone. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of Australia and the Torres Strait Islands, and in particular, I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and any Indigenous peoples who are watching us today. The Honourable Alan Tudge, distinguished guests, board and staff of the Mental Health Foundation Australia, and in particular our chairman, Mr. Vasan Srinivasan, and all of you who have joined us for this launch of Mental Health Month, particularly those of you who may be impacted by the pandemic, and also those of you who either had the lived experience of a mental health difficulty or care for somebody who does. Now, mental health is a matter for every stage of life. But today I'm going to focus on youth for reasons that will become obvious. Youth is the time of vigorous emotional, intellectual, social and physical development. It's the time of great opportunity. It's a time for building on the foundation for mental health and resilience laid earlier in childhood, when hopefully the young person had experienced community programs that promote caring attachment between mothers, families and children, programs that support families to provide a safe and caring environment for children, and that these young people have experienced 2 years of quality preschool education, followed by well-resourced quality primary and secondary school education. In this developmental pathway of building mental health and resilience, youth is the next vital step to ensure mental health in adult life. But youth, of course, face a number of key developmental transition tasks, which influence the ongoing development of mental health and the building of resilience. Firstly, of course, it's the time of puberty, of huge body changes, which require the development of a healthy approach to nutrition, exercise and health care. It's a time when puberty brings heightened emotions and changes in reasoning, which certainly require support and understanding. It's a time of phenomenal brain development and cognitive development, in which the young person becomes capable of problem solving, their processing speed is never faster, their knowledge expands, and their reasoning, particularly around moral, ethical, social justice, religious and cultural identity, emerge. Identity formation happens during adolescence, which is a process facilitated by parents and school as they encourage increasing autonomy in a cultural and community context. It's a time when we build our self-esteem and self-efficacy. And to do that, we need a safe and positive social experience which rewards our achievement and rewards effort, whatever that might be. It's a time when social relationships and emerging sexuality and gender expression develops. And of course, we need support and understanding during this time for our emerging gender expression and our sexual orientation. It's a time when we start to actively think of the future. Who are we going to be? What are we going to train for? What's my role in life going to be? And as we move to independent thinking and living. Of course, there are lots of challenges during this time. We have to engage in a healthy lifestyle that sets the scene for the rest of our life by attention to exercise, diet, health checks, recreation, and a healthy sleeping pattern. It's a time when we're also challenged by the use of alcohol and substances, and we have to learn how to manage stress and promote our own mental health. So in other words, given a good enough family and social and educational environment, then youth is a time actually for mental health. But it is also the peak time when many of the mental health problems of adults emerge and become much more apparent. Now, the Mental Health Foundation Australia ran a series of youth workshops during Mental Health Month in 2018 and 2019 to gather direct evidence from the experience of young people themselves on how the community should best respond to and support youth with mental health difficulties. These young people have developed a comprehensive youth-informed blueprint which is addressed to government and mental health service providers, and particularly at educational institutions and workplaces where young people learn and work. And this policy is going to be released during this Mental Health Month, October 2020. Now, I'm just briefly going to share with you some of the key recommendations of this blueprint for action that I remind you come from the young people themselves. They argue and advocate that we need a policy and action that supports youth with a mental health problem, that educates and supports families and their young people to manage well the transition from school to post-school life, and promotes the development of their emerging independent living skills and the opportunities for work and employment. There are recommendations particularly for schools and tertiary education environments where we advocate that these organisations need to provide reasonable learning and work adjustments for students with a mental illness, where the mental health literacy of staff and students and their families and the community must be raised and promoted. We advocate that these institutions and environment provide staff with training and information about the use of non-judgmental listening skills when talking to youth, curriculum and work skills design for inclusive and effective learning of students with mental health difficulties, classroom and assignment adjustments for a student with a mental health difficulty, and where we can make students aware of their rights and responsibilities. These environments also need to train staff to help to handle mental health crisis situations in which they interact in a manner that maintains respect, dignity, confidentiality and equity, where staff are supportive and empathic, where we advise staff not to share their own problems, not to be judgmental, and most importantly, to listen rather than give advice, to ask the young person how you can help and who else might need to know about the current difficulties, to consider reasonable modifications to reduce workload and study stress and compensate for any disability, such as a specific writing disability, to implement school and workplace anti-bullying and anti-discrimination policies and ensure safety. And that's a very important one, to implement policies that prevent bullying and discrimination in a safe environment. And finally, to provide information on where help is available. In particular, to take any talk or mention of suicide seriously and arrange for help to be sought. These words come from the young people themselves, and therefore this is the best of advice from young people. And if government, the community, educational institutions and workplaces respond and implement their recommendations, then youth mental health will be promoted and the social and emotional capital of the community enhanced and built. Now, if anything I've said has perhaps resonated in a distressing way with you and you want to seek help, please don't hesitate to call agencies such as Lifeline, our own Mental Health Foundation Australia helpline, Kids Line, or seek help from your GP, a Headspace or community health centre. Finally, stay well, stay safe, stay connected, and remain creative. Thank you.
Professor Tong for joining us today and for your continuous support and guidance over many, many years. The MHFA's Youth Ambassador Program aims to engage its young members to promote positive mental health and well-being through a network of dedicated volunteers throughout Australia. I would now like to invite Martin Croatia, Chairperson of the Youth Ambassadors Program, to say a few words about the MHFA's Youth Policy Paper document. Please join me in welcoming Martin.
Thank you very much, and hello everyone. Great to see so many people here. My name is Martin Krivoshia. I'm the chair of the Youth Ambassador Program. It's great to be here on behalf of the Youth Ambassadors as a whole. Now, in particular today, I'd like to touch on the great launch that we're going to be doing today on behalf of youth mental health. It's the Youth Mental Health Policy Paper. The paper arose from the 2018 Youth Mental Health and Wellbeing Conference. This conference basically provided an in-depth and first-hand look into the mental health challenges that Australian youth face on a day-to-day basis. Workshops were run within the conference to discuss a range of mental health challenges, and then they were used to discover creative sort of evidence-based recommendations for the improvement of mental health outcomes for youth. The policy paper itself covers a range of topics. These include depression, anxiety and panic disorder, eating disorders, adjustment disorders, generational stress and trauma, gender identity issues, obsessive compulsive disorder, psychotic disorders, as well as substance abuse and addictions. This paper really is quite unique, and it's also a unique opportunity to onboard the thoughts and the ideas that were brought up in this 2018 Wellbeing Conference. And really there's a few points that came up and particular points that were addressed within the paper. Firstly, what may be lacking in the current mental health support system. Secondly, youth opinions themselves on the major sources of mental stress and illness, where the issues may be arising from. Recommendations for the support of young sufferers of mental health conditions, and the youth opinions on current mental health awareness and what can be done to improve. Now, as chair of the Mental Health Foundation Australia Advisory Committee, the Youth Advisory Committee, I'm honoured to present this policy paper to the government at a local, state and federal level, and suggest that the included information and recommendations are thoroughly considered and applied. The paper will be available as a flip book to everyone who has been connected to the foundation, as well as distributed nationwide to all interested. A big thank you to Ron Ginnon and Tom Buckle, co-authors of the paper, along with a number of the youth ambassadors for their contributions. Thank you all for a wonderful mental health month so far, and look forward to the rest of this launch and the month. Thank you all for coming today.
Thank you, Martin, for briefing us on the youth policy paper. This is a great initiative of recommendations by the youth for the youth. This is what the MHFA is all about. We believe in outcome-based initiatives, and we will continue to do this in the future. I now take the opportunity to speak about the event calendar for National Mental Health Month 2020. Over the last 9 days, the MHFA has already hosted 9 fantastic and impactful events. We hosted a very successful National Teachers Mental Health Symposium virtually and a National Farmers Mental Health Symposium in New South Wales. Throughout the remainder of October, we will have a continuation of our symposium series with our National Homelessness and Mental Health Symposium in Tasmania on the 13th, our National Symposium on Sportspersons' Mental Health in Queensland on the 16th, our Multicultural Communities Mental Health Symposium in South Australia on the 26th, and our National Symposium on Minors' Mental Health in Western Australia on the 30th. All of these symposiums will be available to be streamed on Zoom. Excuse me. We also have our Walk for Mental Health events coming up on the 18th of October in each state and territory at 10:30 a.m. local time, as well as a virtual walk for mental health. If you have not already done so, I encourage you to download our MHFA Walktober app and join our virtual walk. The MHFA has tried to curate a calendar that has something for everyone, to share our message that mental health matters and our motto of better mental health for all. To register and learn more about any of the events during the month, please head to our website, mhfa.org.au. I would now like to welcome Professor Peter Barlas, Board Director of the Mental Health Foundation Australia. Peter is an internationally recognised interventional cardiologist with the Northern and St Vincent's Hospitals in Victoria, and a Professor of Medicine with the Faculty of Medicine, Dentistry and Health Science for the University of Melbourne. After graduating from the University of Melbourne, he completed a cardiology training at Austin Health, followed by a Masters of Public Health with Monash University. He is internationally renowned for his interventional and imaging academic output and the early developmental programs for novel therapies in cardiovascular disease. He has maintained connections all over the globe and continues to attract industry support for his research. He runs an active research group in biomedicine engineering focused on coronary imaging and computational modeling with an interest in the development of innovative cardiovascular technologies. I now invite Professor Barlas to give the vote of thanks on behalf of the Mental Health Foundation Australia.
Thank you very much, Abby. A very, very kind introduction. And can I thank you also for the wonderful work you have done today in supporting our organisation, but also in your work with our ambassador program. So thanks again, Abby. Look, it's been an honour to be part of this launch event. Also humbled to be part of the organisation, as Vasan said, the oldest community-based organisation in Australia. We have reached today almost 2,000 people just through Zoom and Facebook and social media alone. So it's an amazing reach that we've been able to achieve. Obviously, we're all individually sitting in isolation, but you know, when you look at the breadth of the virtual network and the reach that we've been able to achieve today, I'm ever so proud. So A huge thank you to our speakers, to our guests, the Honourable Alan Tudge MP, Miss Emma McBride MP, Mr. Mike Hutton Squire, Jim Rimmer, Martin Krivosova. Thanks again for all the work you've done with the Youth Ambassador Program. And of course, no event and no organisation could go ahead without its sponsors and the support from the Department of Health and Human Services, Australia Unity, Vic Health and Mental Health Victoria. A big thank you to all the winners of the National Mental Health Awards program. Really great efforts, great work, and continue your advocacy for this very, very important cause that we all support. The performers, Ashley was wonderful earlier today, and we're also going to be blessed by another performance coming up by the Bollywood Dance Studio of Australia. And again, a big thank you to all our patrons, directors, staff, volunteers, and attendees throughout the course of today. Thank you very much. And again, better mental health for all.
Thank you, Professor Barlas. Before we sign off for today, we have for you the fantastic dancers from Bollywood Dance School Australia to entertain us. Bollywood Dance School Australia is on a mission to share Indian culture with the Australian community through Indian dance, performing arts. They share the joy of dance to empower and motivate individuals whilst enthralling audiences through performances. Please enjoy.
मेरी नींद उड़ाई गई नशे में तेरे मुझको डुबाई गई ऐसे मुझे पूरे तू काय को झूठे वादे करके बनाई गई न जाने कितनों को रुलाई गई और तुमको से दिल को चुराई गई अच्छा तुझे लेके चल जाए को ओ सैया सैया वे ओ सैया वे छोड़ को भैया मोड़ के भैया जल्दी से सड़ो आई एम वाना सैया साइको psycho. I am what I say, yes, मुझे शैतान का के मिला ले तू अखियां कहने दे कहती है जो तेरी सखियां अरे घूंघटा उठा के मिला ले तू अखियां कहने दे कहती है जो तेरी सखियां ये प्रीत है पुरानी मैं राजा और तू रानी हाँ तेरे मेरे जन्मों के वादे राधे 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 ओ राधे 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 तेरे बिना कृष्णा तो लगे आधे आधे राधे 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 ओ राधे 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 तेरे बिना कृष्णा तो लगे आधे आधे राधे 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 ओ राधे 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 तेरे बिना कृष्णा तो लगे आधे आधे करके ये बोल दो आएंगे देर से फिक्रे सब छोड़ दो आज हक से अपने हिसाब में हम जो करने चले गलती वो जोड़ लो तो आज कुछ लम्हों के लिए बिगड़ी राहों पे तुम पैरों को मोड़ दो आज हक से दुनिया को भूल के जितने हैं कायदे वो सारे तोड़ दो हो खुले ग्राउंड में आके ऊंचा साउंड बजा के रेड वाला कलर लगा के चेंगे हीरो बन कर वो जय जय शिव शंकर रंगूड़ है भयंकर रंगूड़ दे दो हम आए राम शंकर की मूड है भयंकर रंगूड़ दे दो She will tell you where to go and be telling me to go where to China. Get hard to get it cold and they tell you go hold and get the body cold where to China. Hey, do you know, baby, तेरे लिए रखा पल्लू संभाले. Hey, do you know, तू जो चाहे वो कर दूँ मैं तेरे हवाले. उड़नी उड़े उड़े अखियाँ उड़े उड़े केम छो मजामा के ओढ़नी ये ओढ़नी ओढ़ू ओढ़ू पर उड़ी जाए 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 ओढ़नी उड़े उड़े रे अखियाँ मुड़े मुड़े रे ओढ़नी उड़े उड़े रे अखियाँ मुड़े मुड़े रे मेरे सीने में कुछ कुछ खाए ये ओढ़नी ओढ़ू ओढ़ू पर उड़ी जाए ओढ़नी ओढ़ू ओढ़ू पर उड़ी जाए
मुंबई टू सांगली तुझा माझा प्रेम आहे फिलिंग आहे चांगली रे पावसा तुला देतो पैसा आला रे यो मुंबई टू सांगली तुझा माझा प्रेम आहे फिलिंग आहे चांगली पावसा तुला देतो पैसा आला रे यो
अरे ढगाला लागली
Thank you, Bollywood Dance School Australia, for that performance. If you would like to dance alongside them, head to the Mental Health Foundation website and register for the free Bollywood Dance School Australia workshop that is happening on the 17th of October. I just want to take a quick moment to thank all our sponsors, our speakers, and our participants today. But most importantly, I would like to thank all of you who are joining us virtually for this event. Without your support, the Mental Health Foundation could not do what it does. Make sure you head to our website and our social media pages to follow up on what the MHFA does throughout and after National Mental Health Month. Head out there and make sure you spread the positive message of good mental health for all. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.